I remember thinking we were so lucky. We had a big house when I was a kid, enough space that it felt like a maze sometimes. One of the strangest rooms was what my siblings and I called the back lounge. It was on the first floor, tucked away, almost an afterthought. It wasn't a proper living room, just a few forgotten pieces of furniture. A beat-up, dark floral recliner, a tiny, scarred end table, and a massive, overstuffed sofa that sagged in the middle. We never, ever used it. It was just there. One cold Tuesday morning, I woke up feeling absolutely terrible. My throat was on fire, and my mom, bless her, told me to skip school and just rest. My siblings went off, my parents headed to their jobs. I was alone, miles away from their comfort. The house was silent, a vast, lonely silence that started to feel heavy. I lay in bed upstairs for hours, drifting in and out of a feverish sleep. It was maybe around 10:45 a.m. when the silence shattered. Thump, scrape, thump. A slow, deliberate, heavy tread was moving across the first-floor hallway, right beneath me. My stomach dropped. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe Mom came home early with a forgotten item. She sometimes did that. I was starving anyway. I had to go downstairs. I crept down the stairs, heart hammering against my ribs, and turned toward the kitchen. As I reached the walk-in entry, maybe 3 steps from the main room, my eyes snapped up. It wasn't my mom. Standing just inside the kitchen, perfectly still, was a man. He must have been 6 feet tall, maybe more, and was wearing clothes that weren't just dirty, they were shredded, hanging off him in filthy gray and brown rags. He looked less like a person and more like something that had crawled out of the earth. I froze, my lungs locked up. I just stood there, trapped in the doorway. It was only a handful of seconds, but the air thickened into hours. He didn't move, didn't smile, didn't frown. He just watched me, with eyes that were utterly vacant, utterly cold. The lack of expression was what broke me. It was like seeing a statue that had decided to blink. Then pure, unadulterated panic took over. I let out a choked sound, a gasp more than a scream, and bolted. I flew up the stairs, my feet barely touching the wood. I slammed into my bedroom, shoved the heavy antique dresser in front of the door, and locked it until the key bit into the wood. My fingers shook so badly I almost dropped my phone. I should have called the emergency services immediately, but I didn't think. I called my mom. "Mom!" I practically shrieked into the receiver, my voice high and thin. "Someone is in the house. He's downstairs. He's gonna kill me!" She calmed me down, thank God. She made me whisper exactly where I was, told me not to move for any reason, and told me to call the police right then. I did. The wait was an eternity. 15 minutes felt like a lifetime of holding my breath. Finally, through the sheer curtains of my window, I saw the flashing blue and red lights. 2 squad cars. I waited until I heard the heavy thud of the front door being kicked in. Then I practically tumbled down the stairs, adrenaline overriding every fear, straight into the arms of the nearest officer. I told them everything, sobbing, shaking. They did a thorough sweep. Kitchen, bathrooms, closets, attic, basement. Nothing. No sign of entry, no broken windows, no forced locks. Nothing but an empty, echoing house. My parents arrived, distraught and furious. Furious that the man hadn't been caught, relieved I was safe. I was a wreck. The officers were getting ready to leave, writing it off as a fevered hallucination, when the last patrolman stopped by the back lounge. He was giving the sagging sofa one last look when he noticed a flash of yellow and white plastic peeking out from the back of it. A Walmart shopping bag. And that's where the floor dropped out from under us. The police lifted the heavy old sofa. The smell hit us first, a sickening, suffocating stench of decay, mold, and rot. Piled underneath, crammed into the sofa's hollow frame in the dark space below, was a horrifying nest. Hundreds of bundled trash bags, weeks and weeks of rotting food, crusty, empty fast food containers. But worse were the personal items. Our missing remote controls, a pack of our family's water bottles, a jar full of coins from the living room table, and the most chilling of all, several tightly tied plastic bags filled with human waste and urine. The man I saw in the kitchen hadn't broken in that morning. He had been living under our sofa for weeks, sleeping, eating, and observing our entire family's life from a space we never bothered to check. The incomprehensible part? The sheer, terrifying silence. How did we never smell that? How did he never make a sound, not a cough, a whisper, a shuffle, while we watched TV or walked past? He was right there, always there. We got rid of that sofa that day. We burned it. Now that room is a brightly lit sunroom with hard wooden benches and no place to hide. I'm moving away to college soon, but sometimes, late at night when the house is finally quiet, I still feel that cold, vacant stare on the back of my neck. I just know he was watching me, waiting for the perfect moment, and I'll never know why that morning he finally decided to step out.
I was only 13 when this happened. 13. And I still live in this house, the very one where I'm telling you this story from. To this day, I have no idea what it was. Truly, no idea. It was about 8:56 p.m., and a nasty thunderstorm had just kicked off. We live right in the middle of tornado alleys, so it's a strict rule. When the weather gets ugly, I sleep downstairs in my dad's room. I'm an incredibly heavy sleeper, and my parents worry about me sleeping through a warning upstairs. It was much later, around 12:45 a.m. The rain was lashing against the windows like handfuls of gravel. I was sitting up, completely absorbed in my phone, just watching YouTube to burn time until I got tired. Suddenly, I heard it. A deep, powerful car bass vibrated through the floorboards, pulling up and parking right in the driveway. It wasn't just any car. It was my dad's distinct, modified sedan. We're in a tiny, tight-knit town. Everyone knows everyone, and no one else had an engine sound like that. I instantly assumed he was home, finally finished with his long night shift, and would be coming downstairs any second. I quickly gathered my things, snapped off the phone, and even got my little terrier, Buddy, ready. We sat right on the edge of the bed, waiting for the familiar sound of his footsteps on the main floor. A minute stretched to 3, then 5. Nothing. My heart started tapping a little faster. I eventually slipped off the bed and crept over to the window, the one that looks straight out onto the driveway. I could see the entire pavement stretch. There was absolutely no way a car could be there without me seeing it. But the driveway was empty. Nothing. I told myself I must have been mistaken. Maybe it was a truck passing by on the distant highway. Plus, I distinctly remember Dad saying he wouldn't be pulling in until closer to 2 a.m. I shook it off, walked back, and sat down. That's when the dread settled in. The powerful, low-frequency car bass sound, it hadn't stopped. It was still there, just a low, constant thrumming presence right outside the house, even though the visual proof was missing. I was genuinely spooked now, but I tried to rationalize it again. Maybe someone random just parked strangely on the street and the sound was carrying. Then a few more minutes ticked by in the oppressive silence of the storm. I heard him. A distinct, rough cough, my father's cough, came from the attached garage. A wave of relief washed over me. He's home, I thought, suddenly feeling much more safe as the storm outside seemed to be reaching a peak. But that relief shattered an instant. I never heard the garage door open. I never heard the inner door from the garage to the house latch. My breath caught in my throat. I was utterly paralyzed by now. I couldn't bring myself to look out that window again, couldn't move toward the door. I just sat, frozen, listening to the rain and the terrifying silence of the house. The storm was howling now, thundering, shaking the very glass. Then, through the noise, a sound that made my whole body go cold. "Sweetheart." My name. My dad's voice, soft, almost a whisper, but clearly calling my name from the top of the stairs. In that horrifying moment, I knew that was not my father. That was something in my house or someone pretending to be him. I couldn't move. I just sat, hyperventilating silently. I turned my head, looking at my dog, Buddy, who was sitting up, looking at me with a confused, tilted head as if asking, "What's wrong?" He hadn't heard a thing. I slowly, meticulously laid back down, pulling the covers over my head, lying as absolutely still and quiet as a body could be. I don't know when I passed out, but I must have, from sheer terror. I woke up at 4 a.m. The first thing I did, I bolted to the window. There it was, my dad's unmistakable car parked in the driveway. I ran screaming up the stairs and burst into his room, shaking him awake, pouring out the entire terrifying ordeal. I'm a skeptic. I don't believe in ghosts or the supernatural, but I know what I heard that night. Something called my name, and it wasn't my father. I can't help but wonder, with a sickening, cold twist in my stomach, what would have happened if I hadn't frozen? What if I had been the good daughter, running up those stairs, following that voice? We will never know what really happened in that house that night. And to this day, living here, I can't shake the unnerving feeling that I'm not entirely alone.
Although it doesn't seem like it, this chilling night happened over a decade ago, when I was just 17. It's the reason I sleep with one specific light on every single night. You think you understand fear until you realize someone wants more than your possessions. They want you. I was in my final year of high school, and for once, I had the entire house to myself. My parents were away for a weekend wedding, and my older sister was pulling an endless night shift at the local hospital. We lived in a forgettable, aging suburban town outside of a major Midwestern city. The kind of place where things start going wrong when the streetlights burn out and no one bothers to replace them. As an intense introvert, this was my nirvana. My routine was sacred. Greasy takeout, a terrible sci-fi movie marathon, and my best friend, Gus. Gus was a Basset Hound, a glorious, overweight, perpetually mournful Basset Hound. His entire existence was a celebration of laziness, a furry, low-slung monument to the concept of napping. He didn't bark, he didn't run, he just existed. His heavy head was currently a comforting dead weight on my thigh. It was past 1 a.m. I was starting to drift off on the old, saggy couch when I heard it, a sharp, metallic clank from the back deck. I jolted awake, my heart doing a stutter step. I tried to dismiss it, a raccoon, maybe a loose gutter. Gus, however, was no longer a dead weight. His ridiculous floppy ears were twitching, and he lifted his head slowly. The look on his face wasn't his usual feed me expression. It was rigid, confused. I patted his head, trying to calm my own nerves. "It's nothing, buddy." I started to doze again, but not 2 minutes later, it came back. Not a clank, but a screeching, grinding rat-tunk. It was the sickening sound of metal being leveraged against wood, the failing, rusted sliding patio door that led to our yard. This sound was not accidental. It had intent. And then Gus moved. He didn't waddle. He slammed his paws down, springing off the couch like a rocket powered by pure adrenaline, and bolted toward the back of the house. He was howling, a deep, resonant, terrified sound I had never heard from him before, not even when the doorbell rang. It was the sound of a guard dog, a desperate alarm that ripped through the silence of the house. The sight of him moving with such unexpected fury electrified my own terror. His desperate bang gave me a burst of adrenaline. I rushed upstairs, bypassing my phone. My teenage panicked mind convinced me I needed a weapon first. I grabbed the only thing I could, a heavy cast iron skillet from the kitchen. It felt cold and heavy in my settling palm. As I crept down the hall, Gus's howls turned into a continuous guttural snarl at the patio door. The grinding stopped, and then a horrifying sound, a short, sharp crack, followed by the sickening whisper of the door sliding open just a few inches. And then, through Gus's frantic, desperate barks, I heard a low, raspy man's voice hiss, "Get back, you damn mutt!" The sudden, aggressive thump of Gus hitting the door, followed by a sharp curse and the sound of heavy footsteps retreating quickly into the yard, was all I needed to hear. The banging stopped. The house fell into a terrifying silence broken only by Gus, still trembling and growling low, his entire body rigid against the thin glass. I didn't call the police. I spent the rest of the night shaking on the floor, the cold skillet heavy in my hand, staring at the slightly open door. The intruder had been inches away. That lazy, bacon-obsessed Basset Hound, the dog who never barked, who never ran, had launched himself with a ferocity no one, least of all the attacker, could have anticipated. He didn't just save my stuff, he saved my life. Years later, Gus was old, his heart tired and his movement slow. We had to make that impossible, heartbreaking decision. Before the final injection, I had a moment alone with him. I knelt down, held his enormous floppy face, and told him everything. I thanked him for his companionship, but most of all, I thanked him for that single night, for being the hero I didn't know I needed. I'm a husband and a father now. I have a good life, but I am absolutely convinced none of this, the peace, the family, the future, would never have happened if not for the sudden, extraordinary courage of a very ordinary fat old dog. He wasn't just doing his job. He knew.